My name is Earl W Taylor. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist for 25 years. I'm an author of the self-help book, Overcoming Yourself, a journey through achievement toward contentment. I'm also a retired realtor and real estate investor. Welcome to Shupidstit. What is Shupidstit? Shupidstit is an uncommon approach for a better life. Allow me to introduce my co-host, Mr. Bryan Boggs, my man.
What's happening, brother? Hello, world. My name is Bryan Boggs. I'm a retired naval officer after 25 years of faithful service and a serial entrepreneur. We're about to take you on a journey from a common result to an uncommon result, leading to an unbelievable reality. And we're going to be traveling at the speed of now.
Yes, sir.
Let's get it.
Now.
Let's do it.
Now.
Already.
Let's talk about Shupidstit. Shupidstit is a response to common sense. I don't use common sense except for safety, physical safety.
What about everybody else?
Common folks. That's a choice. I don't use Shupidstit except for safety. Let me give an example of common sense. Well, common sense, killing a man for killing a man.
Eye for an eye.
It's insufficient. The number one reason not to use common sense is that the common result is inadequate. And that's an example. Another example of common sense is those wonderful LV initials. Everybody know that those initials mean something significant, valuable.
Status.
But they're just initials. Why are your initials not significant? Not exciting? Shupidstit is a solution to that as well.
Dig it.
Allow me to introduce one other example. If you have a human being, that human being has 3 arms and 1 leg and 1 head with a brain in it. How many people do you have? One person. You have a human being, no arms, no legs, and 2 heads. How many people do you have?
2 consciousness.
You have 2 people. We live in our heads where all this common sense is stored. Take that a step further. You have 1,000 people. 1,000. They all have common sense. They all think alike. The exact same thoughts. How many people do you have?
Sound like an ant colony to me, but it's 1.
Sounds like 1 to me. Everybody has the same thoughts.
Yeah, 1 person.
1 person.
Common sense robs you of individuality. Individuality is I divide from you all. And we're going to talk about, once again, how we can use an uncommon approach to a better life.
That's what I'm about, man.
Allow me to introduce my man, Antoine Jarvis. How you feeling today, brother?
Man, I'm excellent, man. Life is amazing my way. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Glad you came.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for inviting me.
Already.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about how to apply common sense to what? To manhood?
To manhood.
Manhood.
Apply common sense or apply Shupidstit?
Shupidstit it is.
Shupidstit it is.
Shupidstit it is.
Shupidstit it is.
And why would we want to do that? The common result. Insufficient. Well, manhood clearly is a social creation. So is common sense. You have any questions, any concerns, Mr. Antoine? How would you like to start this subject? Any concerns? What's your thoughts on manhood?
For me, and I like how you broke that down, how it's a social construct, because I'm a believer in that as well. For me, manhood was never something I would even make the time or didn't even take the time to try to break down what it was. So I just literally looked at other guys who were older than me, right? Who I assumed were, who I envisioned as this is how a man's supposed to be. And I based that off of what manhood is. So I never really broken down the whole concept of manhood. It's literally a new concept for me because I always just figured because he's a man, he provides for his kids, provides for his family. That's what manhood was. I never looked at the breakdown of the thought process of somebody who does it faithfully. I never thought about how it works when it's a single mom raising the kids and how does that work?
And that's a really good point because like when I think about manhood, especially for people that come from disadvantaged socioeconomic conditions, they don't really tend to have a man in their presence. They have a bunch of males that's struggling with the best that they know, that they learn from the same conditions, trying to help people be a better version of a man. But the thing is, in order to do better, you got to know better. And if you're learning from the same people in the same struggle, how can you learn better?
Well, manhood clearly, once again, is a social construct. When I think of manhood, I think of not responding to pain. Take life like a man. Little boys and little girls respond to pain the exact same way.
I agree.
Healthy individuals. Somewhere 3rd, 4th grade, the little boy is snatched and told, stop this foolishness. Be a man. From that point, manhood is encroached upon this child. Child is born with a heart of gold. Ways of the world turn it cold. Earth, wind, and fire. Snuck it a little earth, wind, and fire. You gotta be old school to know something about that. You gotta be old school. But at any rate, that little boy begins this process from a clinical point of view that I can call clinical death. When you don't respond to pain, life is an emotional experience. And if you're not responding to pain, you're not participating. So from that point, now there's some positive aspects of manhood, providing for your child, providing. But the negative aspects is your inability to respond to pain.
Well, I'm not going to say inability. I'm going to say the proper method of responding to pain. Because most men that don't necessarily understand manhood the way they should, the way they respond to pain is through revenge and retribution. They got to do something. Since you hurt me, I got to do something to you now so that you can feel the same pain I feel. At least that's been my experience in life growing up.
I would say inability. You could do anything your mind is set on, you can't do nothing your mind is not set on. That little boy's mind was reset. The best way to reach a mind is in its fertile stages, in the early stages. When you shook that little boy and said, be a man, you shut his emotional faculties down. Personally, I take life like a woman, overcoming like a man. Today wasn't always that way. For 30 years, I only cried at a funeral, round once in a blue moon, like most men, because we didn't do that to ourselves. We're going to undo it, and we are undoing it.
Question. What was the moment that caused you to start to see it different?
Unfortunately and fortunately, my mother was passing away. I remember the doctors, they were sharing with us. She has heartbeat. She has brain waves, but she's not responding to pain. They kept saying that. She's not responding to pain. And I remember looking out the window and said, wow, that's clinical death. And that's also manhood. And in that moment, I began to work on myself to undo what was done to me. Now, how do you teach a man to respond to pain? First of all, the number one reason men don't respond to pain is logical. They'll tell you in a heartbeat. Why should I cry over spilled milk? Well, the answer is there's no logical explanation for an emotion, and there's no emotional explanation for logic. Those are two faculties that make a human being whole. And it took me forever to what appeared to be forever. Today, I cry more than my wife. I cry more than anybody. I cry every day, not because I got a bad life. In fact, I got a great life. I respond to pain. So the first thing when I think of manhood is as men, we have to open up our emotional faculties. Once that's completed, we can go toward wholeness. And I'm certain there's other aspects of manhood, such as interacting with our wives.
That's definitely a big thing, interacting with our spouses, girlfriends, opposite sex, and also how men interact with each other. Because I know for myself, growing up, a lot of times there was a certain kindredship with men because, when you're growing up in the hood and you don't have a man daily in your life, you tend to look for it amongst your friends. But boys teaching boys ain't gonna learn a lot on how to be a man. So then what end up happening is that continues through your life. And then if you don't find a way to progress from it, that I think that's the reason why a lot of men don't know how to talk to men, because they've never progressed from it. Like, I know a lot of guys who profess they love, and I believe that's what they truly feel. But the result from that good intention, it doesn't usually match, because I think a lot of men don't know how to love.
Well, speaking of love, in my opinion, love is what you do for others. Pleasure is what you do for yourself. And too often we confuse love and pleasure.
I agree.
And until we understand the difference, we'll forever be mistaking love for pleasure. But if you can't feel anything, you can't respond to pain, you can't love. And that's a common complaint amongst women. But the good news is this, in my opinion. As men, we are coming together,
yes,
and taking life like women.
I ain't gonna say all that, but
That's a little too much. Too much too soon. Too much too soon. But I get what you're saying.
But I get your point, though.
Clearly,
I'm with you.
But just not yet.
that's some Shupidstit. Clearly.
There you go.
women are living longer, in case you didn't know this.
That's a fact.
That is.
Two guys have a traumatic experience, they on their own. Two women have a traumatic experience, they team up.
Forever.
They get together, they let it out, and they let it go. That guy been taking it like a man. He holding it in. He pent up. Too much burden on a human.
I don't necessarily agree. From my perspective, having been through some traumatic things with other men, and we bonded together, and to overcome.
So what is it that you do not agree with, sir?
The part that I disagree with is that a man is going to automatically internalize the trauma instead of trying to beat it.
I would like to suggest that we leave a lot of hoods, that we just leave manhood. All that manhood has to offer in my pea brain could be achieved in 21 years. What if we went toward wholeness? Because as long as you do not let it out, you cannot let it go. Possible.
So can I?
Yes, sir.
Let's play off of that right there. What about those people? And I feel like I'm one of those people, right? That when I go through something, the reason why I don't cry over the spilled milk is because I had a chance to analyze what I went through. You know what I'm saying? And like, say, perfect example is death. I don't really cry at funerals. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just not really my thing. I'm not much of a cry. I'm gonna tell you like this. I cried for the first time day before yesterday, and it's been years since I did that, right? And I had to pat myself on the back because, you know, like it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I ran away from that, and it was from a new show I was watching.
That's for you, brother, man. See, that's for you right there.
There you go. Because
Continue.
it was from a show I was watching that touched on one of my traumas. You know what I mean? One of my inner traumas that I haven't really addressed. But what about those people who can say, okay, this is the spilled milk. It makes no sense for me to cry over it. So why am I going to be emotionally attached to that spilled milk? And why would I be considered clinically dead if I don't react to that spilled milk? If I already had the chance to logically understand it's already spilled. It is
First of
what
all,
it is.
that's a good question. Let me ask you a question. You weren't always a man. They say a child is born with a heart of gold, ways of the world turning cold. Let's talk about that child. In the 4th grade, why did you cry over the same thing little girls cried over? Why did you do it then?
That's a good fact. And when you're a little
Let me
kid,
ask you quick. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
you're a little kid,
dog.
if you spill some milk and you wanted that milk, you're going to cry.
I'm gonna cry.
Let me ask you
I'm crying right next to her.
Because you were whole. You were a healthy human being. And manhood robbed you of that. Does that make sense to you?
Man, that's mind blowing because you steal my candy, right? And then mom gets mad at both of us. You know what I'm saying? If y'all over there fighting over this, but I'm just gonna take it. Now we both crying.
Exactly.
That's a healthy individual. First of all, from a therapeutic point of view, you cannot let it go until you let it out. And if you don't know how to let it out, it's coming out on its own. It's going to surprise you. You're going to be surprised when you do let it out. You're going to be like, whoa.
So you're saying even though I see the milk is already spilled,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about that. If I don't let out, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm just trying to make sure I'm processing what you're saying, to be able to utilize that in my day-to-day, if it makes enough sense. Are you saying that even though I see the milk is already spilled, and I don't cry over it, or I don't have no emotions towards it, because logically I'm thinking, well, there's nothing I can do about it because it already happened. There's something wrong with me.
Nothing's wrong with you,
internally?
sir. You are wonderful as you are. Each and every human being is their very best. Something happened to you, and once again, you were robbed through a social process called manhood of your ability to respond to pain. First thing you need to understand is this. There are two separate faculties. There is no logical reason for an emotion. there is no emotional reason for logic. What happened was your emotional faculties were aborted in exchange for manhood. And now you are not whole. And to be whole again, that little boy and that little girl need to experience emotions and logic. Now, once again, notice I say I take life like a woman. Your logic is still necessary. I overcome it like a man.
So it's not necessarily crying, but like
Crying is just the most easily revealed emotional display.
Yeah.
However, it's just to let it out. Now, if crying is a natural thing,
right.
it's the most natural thing known to man. And let me sneak this in as a bit of Shupidstit. Why are we learning to do natural things? Because something unnatural happened to us. Let me say it again. Why are we learning to do natural things? Because something unnatural happened. I had to learn to respond to pain. That ain't natural. There's people, I'm finna go learn to have natural childbirth. Excuse me? I thought it was damn natural. I had to learn.
That's a cold game.
I had to learn
That's a cold game.
to have emotions. Little boys and little girls respond to pain the exact same way. And so I think as men, we are understanding that. I know a lot of men displaying emotions in public. I think we're moving forward.
I agree.
We are moving forward.
I can see that.
And one of my personal goals was to have somebody I can cry with. I can let it out with. I can let it go with. Now, I'm going to tell you the end result of this. There was a women's movement. Did you know there was a women's movement?
I heard something about it.
You know there ain't been no men's movement. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what should have produced a man's movement if they had any ability to respond to pain. The worst pain a man can have is a bobbit situation. Anybody know about that bobbit girl?
Yeah. Everybody knows about that Bobby girl.
That's the worst pain a man can experience. And we didn't have a movement. You know what? We didn't have a movement. That deserved a movement.
That's facts.
We deserved a movement.
Wow.
That was a freaking movement. But you know what?
I don't think that's the worst pain a man can experience.
I don't think you can cut my stuff off. I don't know if I can.
I think the worst pain a man will experience is taking all his money.
Oh no! You take my money, just don't chop my shit off.
I think it depends on the man, because if he's a hustler, you can take everything from me and I'm
give
still
my
gonna get it
money.
back.
But if you take all his money and his ability to get it again.
Now you do know what this man lost, right?
I know, but he got it back.
But at the time, I wasn't sure he could get it back.
What do you mean he got it back?
He sold it back on.
Oh, it got sold back
Oh,
on.
let me go ahead and pick this up real quick. I'll put it back on for you. You good to go.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
Everybody, without going in details, when I said bobbit, you know she cut.
Yeah.
And they picked it up and sold it back on. But I'm not sure I want my
Okay,
stuff
I didn't
cut
know
off.
they did that.
The point is this: if that didn't produce a man's movement, what will? And why won't it? And the answer is simply this: no emotional connection.
To anything.
It's stuff laying on. All the other men like, man, that's your stuff.
I'm glad it ain't mine.
Now, do that to a woman.
Yeah.
Mess with one woman who's got an emotional connection. See what's going to happen. It's already happening. We're going from his story to her story. Because women are, in this case, in the emotional case, the best man for the job is a woe man emotionally speaking. They're more whole than we are. In fact, I did this. Don't mind me. I did this. In this book, I put the words God herself. That's a Shupidstit moment right there.
You mean as in the idea of God being a woman?
If based on what we see right now, it ain't far-fetched.
I mean, I would
God herself.
agree. I mean, because if God is of wrath and jealousy and happiness and love, I mean, men have those same emotions, but I think women are more in tune with them.
Now, the same thing can happen to women. Let's not get this clear. Let's say a woman is in a situation that you put a man in. He got to provide. Put that woman in that situation. She got to provide. Guess what she gonna do?
Step up.
I don't know if it's up, but she gonna step forward.
Step forward.
I'm not sure it's up.
You know, step up to the plate.
Step
you
up
know
to
what
the
I'm
plate,
saying?
yeah.
But my point is, she gonna be crying that much. You know, I put it this way: success or failure, good or bad, right or wrong, is not a person; it's a predicament. And this is the predicament men find themselves in.
But I will say, I know a lot of men today that are being single fathers way more than, say, 30 years ago.
Oh, absolutely, we're making progress.
We're
There's
making
progress.
progress. We're making progress.
Give
There is
ourselves a
progress.
hand.
That's
Get that clear.
That's
We
fact.
didn't come, we ain't our father no more. We
That's facts.
done
That's a
stepped up.
fact.
We done stepped up.
That's a fact.
We done stepped up,
That is
and I'm
facts.
proud of us. But
That is facts.
But part of stepping up is being aware that we got to leave the hood, and we done left a lot of hoods. Me and you came from some hoods.
Oh, absolutely.
But we live in out the hood.
Not
Manhood is one of those hoods. Sadly so.
Touch back on because obviously, like you said, it's not so much crying that we're trying to see it as in regards to the response that we're talking
right.
about.
Having
right?
that emotional response. Like, you don't have to necessarily cry, but you should definitely feel
something.
profound disappointment, especially if you really wanted that glass of milk and that thing fell over. Like, if you ain't cursing and, dang, I really wanted that. Like, if you don't have an emotional response to that, like, something wrong with you.
Because I asked, because what about, like, say, for example, the Buddhist who, when we have a funeral, we tear up, cry, and all that type of stuff. When you meet somebody who's, like, say, for example, a Buddhist, they look at death as a celebration, as a wholeness part of life. You know what I mean? So, again, I take that. I didn't start off taking it that way. I just was like, this is just the norm. You know what I'm saying? People die every day. That's just the norm. So how I look at funerals now is it's a celebration of life. And that could be my way of not addressing the fact that I really am numb to it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And numb to the idea of even talking about having any emotions attached to seeing somebody I love die. I could have came across this concept, the Buddhist concept, and said, you know what, I'm gonna go with that. Because of the fact that I'm at a point to where I don't even want to address any emotional anything, because the last thing I want to do is feel vulnerable. So that's why I asked, like, what exactly are we looking at? What is a person supposed to feel when in these certain situations? Because there's a lot of people that just don't feel.
So I would say, first of all, I would never, ever try to prescribe how a person should feel, because everybody's experiences in life
they should
are totally
feel
different.
Not how they feel.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Should
They should feel something.
Continue.
They should feel something.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
But
something should be there.
But you shouldn't tell them how to feel. Like the way you say you look at death. I look at death as a celebration of life. I don't cry at funerals, but I'll be honest. When my grandmother died, I cried. But my crying wasn't so much about her death. It was more about me no longer being able to be in her presence. I was starting to feel that I was going to miss her presence, and that's what caused me to cry. Due to the deep emotional connection I had with her, even with other people I have emotional connections with. If they die, I may be a little sad because I'll miss them, but death is a natural result of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe I might require further introspective thinking or evolution. But when something is going to happen, you got to accept that it's going to happen.
Well, I would respond this way. First of all, men easily cry at funerals. That's their special occasion. 100%, 90% of men are going to cry at a funeral. That's when it shows you the intensity of the loss. But when I think of death, this hand here, I want you to imagine the left hand is the hand you was born with. The right hand is the hand you have now. The baby hand died. It's gone. Forever. But you're still here. And so it is with death. Death is a continuation. We die daily. There's cells in our body that are dead and will not return. But I'm still here. And new cells will replace them. So once you get educated, perhaps like the Buddhists, about death, it ain't so much the crying, it's the acceptance. Acceptance is the highest form of maturity when total control is non-existence. So I think the Buddhists are simply accepting that which needs to be accepted. And whether you cry or not cry is not the issue at death. The issue at death is acceptance.
And I agree. And I think that actually flows into the manhood conversation altogether, is acceptance. Because as men, at least I can speak for myself, growing up, you see things a certain way, and when it don't go that way, you don't want to accept it because you feel like, okay, I gotta fix it, I gotta change something, I gotta do something different to get a different outcome. But sometimes the outcome is the outcome, and I think a lot of men struggle with accepting what is. You know, when you think about, I think about myself and how I have gay family members, and I accepted them, but when it came to other gay men, it was an uneasiness. I wasn't a homophobe, but I didn't necessarily want to be in their company either. But then I had to look at myself and realize, like, if I can accept my family member, how come I can't accept another man that's gay? And then I had to learn, it is what it is. I guess you got to be able to grow up.
Information is going to usher us all toward that place. Interesting point you're making in terms of gay men. I don't know if you notice, anybody that doesn't go toward manhood goes away from it. You'll find a lot of crying with gay men.
That's a fact. Because
they didn't go toward manhood. The rest of us went toward manhood and had to escape the hood. So that once again confirms this notion that little boys and little girls respond to, of course, there's that third and fourth gender, which is a completely another topic.
Is it a gender or is it non-binary?
That's a whole other conversation. But okay, so basically what you're saying,
I call it a gender.
So basically what you're saying, if I'm hearing this correctly, is if you have a response to pain, then you're not clinically dead.
That's correct.
Okay, so that makes more sense, because now I'm just like, now when I think about it, right? Because again, a celebration, right? When somebody passes away and transitions into the next part of wherever we go after this.
More specifically, let me say this. There's clinical terminal death,
right, and
clinical temporary death. I had temporary death, wasn't terminal, because
right.
I woke up and learned through information how to respond to pain. And we all have that opportunity. Hope is a powerful thing. As long as you have another not moment, you got hope that you can become more and become. And so, yes, you brought another point up in the sense that you're not terminally. It's not terminal. It's not
that's what I was thinking.
Let me be corrected. It's not a death sentence. It's a life opportunity. But if you remain in that state, it's sort of like a person staying in a coma or coming out of coma. See,
just what I was thinking.
I know you would. We think a lot
because that makes the most sense.
Exactly.
So what happens then? Manhood puts you in a comatose emotional state that you can come out of through responding to pain. The moment you respond to pain, you're not clinically there. You fit to be alive and kicking.
You walk in the five.
So even if I'm happy at a funeral, you know what I mean, for seeing somebody transition, I'm still responding
Absolutely.
to.
So I don't think it's impossible to never respond to pain.
That's what I was thinking.
There's no way to
not respond, whether it's happiness or sadness.
There is a response.
You're going to have a response.
There is a response, but it's sort of like a person has one thought only.
So are you saying that there are people who
thinking?
Are you saying
a person
that there's
has
people
one
who
feeling
don't?
Needs to be feeling. It ain't enough to have one thought occasionally.
But are you saying that there's people who do not?
No.
Whether it's happiness or sadness, there's people that do not feel at all?
That must have been overstated. When I say clinically dead, as long as you do not respond to pain, you're clinically dead. The moment and so in that sense, the question becomes, let's say you're in a coma and you come to for 1 second or 1 minute and you go back to the coma. The goal is to awaken from the coma. Once you awaken, now you walk the planet like a healthy person, like the little boy and the little girl. You like in my personal case, let me say it slowly. Probably isn't a day I don't cry. I got a good life. I just respond to pain. I'm connected to things. Continue.
What a better, or not, let me not say better, wrong word. Another way to
Connected
say it,
to people, not
potential
things.
could be the outward expression to pain. Because sometimes you can have pain, like, because as men, we're told
You
to
can't hold
internalize
pain
it.
in.
I mean,
Whatever's inside of a person is coming out. That's why your
saying,
thoughts come out. You know, you can't. Whatever's inside of man is coming out,
that
and emotions
manhood
will come out
thing,
if they're there.
I know in my life, and that manhood thing, you know, if I was in a fight or if I was trading punches with somebody and somebody hit me real good, I can't show them that they hurt me. I gotta hold
But
that
then
in.
once you leave that fight, you go home and cry with your wife, with the trusted people. There's a time, remember, you once again, take life like a woman, overcome it like a man. I'm not suggesting that thinking a lot, using your mind is not part of the solution. Using only your mind is part of the problem.
Roger. Makes sense. Totally. agree.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Well, we've been discussing clearly, manhood has positive attributes. The goal is not to eliminate manhood.
It's essential.
Men have been providing, protecting in a non-emotional way. And however you call it, that still is needed. Food is still needed on the table. So let's get this clear. Manhood ain't all negative. But I'd like to suggest that all that it has to offer, 21 years is sufficient. You get the point that you need to provide. Now we all, women as well, that's a whole nother subject. If you think men need to take life like a woman and overcome it like a man, well, women need to take life like a woman and overcome it like a man too. So there's some pluses here. This is not an all man bashing situation. Right. We are contributors and in a positive way. It's just that we all are going toward wholeness, and wholeness require emotional well-being as well as intellectual well-being. And that intellectual integrity is important too. See, we've been talking about emotional integrity. Let's talk about intellectual integrity. That's where Shupidstit comes in.
Define that for me.
Intellectual integrity. The real you showing up. The real you. The real you showing up. How about, boy, there's some subjects off limit. No, we're talking about intellectual integrity. It's one sentence as being true to yourself. But more specifically, it's the real you showing up. Halloween is the only day people in costume, the rest of you recognize it. You need to be real to you.
People be in costume their whole life.
Their whole life. So the question is, why don't we be real to you? Because we're an acting right society. We haven't accepted ourselves. And we continue.
Political correctness. Just
there you go. That's a fact.
Yeah, exactly. Like
so we want to go from acting right to being right.
And not in the sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, right and wrong is just right. Yeah, not in that sense. Right. Not in that sense.
Not in that sense.
No. That's all part of acting right.
Exactly. Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental. So you want to go from being right, from acting right to being right. Intellectual integrity. True to yourself. I am okay as I am. Which, let's go back. Let's apply this to manhood. You're talking to a guy who's a little disappointed I didn't get my nails done today. I know what you're thinking. I've asked my boy lots of times, let's go get our toes painted. Let's go get our toes painted. Mine pain right now. But he like, dog. He's being true to himself. Right. At that moment. Right. And you don't need permission to be true to yourself.
Not at all.
You know, did I answer your question?
Yeah, because you don't need permission to be true to yourself. Like that's such a challenge because depending on your environment and your upbringing, will determine what part of the journey you are at in life.
That's correct.
You know what I'm saying?
And money is right there saying, listen, God, you can't be yourself. You got to act right.
So now you throwing money.
Oh, money throws itself in there.
Money throws itself in there.
Money be like, hey.
Because it's true. Because people
Don't
change.
show up here with don't show up here with no earrings.
You want to show
for
up
the
and
money.
knock everything off the table.
Fact.
This what y'all
I
doing.
took my
Stepping on
earrings
the couch
out.
and everything. This is my couch.
I took my earrings off for about a decade or two because they wouldn't give me money. I put that white shirt on. So let's get this clear. You better act right till you can produce. But I put it this way. You want to work for the money, but you want to live for the honey. When you get off work, when you and first of all, whatever work you do, it shouldn't take no more than 8 hours. Anything past 8 hours, you're in trouble.
Overkill.
You're overkill.
It's
But
overkill.
once you, the point is, it's sad but true. Money has got a place. Money is in your face.
It's up there with air.
Yeah.
It's up there with air. You know what I mean? Until we evolve into a different way of doing things.
Fortunate for me, I did what I had to do as soon as I could, as fast as I could, so I can do what I want to as long as I can.
Nah.
I have options. I can paint my toenails, paint my fingernails. I don't need to worry about that. You know, I'm using other people's efforts and other people's money. That's a whole nother subject too.
Absolutely. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I get what you say. I took a little different approach. So, being in the military, you got lots of structure. Can't do this, can't do that. Can't do this, can't do that. And me, I'm a boundary pusher. So I'll never forget my first officer function I went to, Hail and Farewell. And I was getting held, brand new to the ship. And I went there in a nice little outfit with earrings in. Now, in the military, back this time, it was 2003, yeah, you don't wear earrings to officer function. You got to be proper decorum, military deportment.
You mean that's not part of the uniform?
No, military
no.
is the most rigid, structured institution.
I'm not in the uniform. I'm in civilian clothes. But since it's a officer function, you're not supposed to have earrings on.
There's a man on
interesting.
CNN lost his job because he didn't meet protocol.
So even though, if I'm hearing this correctly, because I'm not military, civilian my whole life. So even though it's not a military function in regards to the
It's a military function, but it's not on a military base.
They call them
Okay,
SOPs.
there you go.
Standard operating procedures. Once again, you can't even date certain people. That's your private life, but you ain't got one.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. So you're saying in your private capacity, even though it's a military function, in your private capacity, you still had to present yourself in a certain light.
Absolutely. As an officer, you always got to present yourself in a certain manner and with a certain type of decorum. But I wanted them to know I'm different. And I went to an officer function where I was getting held with an earring on. And I got talked about, and they told my boss, and he's like, "Brian, you ain't supposed to do that." Okay. And the next one, I did it again. Because even though there's certain traditions and everything, I'm a firm believer in being me. First
disclaimer. You make sure you calculate this. You can afford it. A lot of folks can't afford to break these rules yet. So I don't promote the rule on breaking rules is to understand them first. See, here's a unique skill. This is not a common skill to be able to cross that line and get paid. So you are aware of that.
I am aware.
Right. That disclaimer does have to be made. So everybody
try this at home.
Everybody don't run into work and be That makes sense.
Put simply,
that makes
you
sense.
need to act right until you can produce, and money determines all that. Unfortunately, for now, unless you like the simple things and things that money can't buy. You don't have to. My book is called Going Through Achievement. Most people can't afford that because they got self-esteem and a self-image. But if you can overcome yourself, get rid of your self-esteem, and you can do what you want to do. You just ain't gonna have a lot of money. You're gonna be free and not dumb. You're gonna be free and not dumb. But most people can't live without money. They want stuff. You know, they want
Exactly.
houses and they want, and if you got a wife, she gonna want some stuff too.
They want comfort.
She gonna want some stuff too.
That's right.
So, but once you go through what is, you can get to what will be, and what will be is the ability to choose and wholeness. And you're not born whole.
Not at all. It's a process.
It's a process. It's a process.
It is a process.
It's a process. Mr. Antoine, what you received from, is any of this Shupidstit?
For me, a lot of it is challenging my norms, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is challenging the way I grew up and how the perspectives were because I still hold on to a lot of that stuff.
Right.
You know, I struggle with it on a day to day. You know what I mean? But I still hold on to the core values that I found important to me. You know, growing up in the hood. So again, as a father, as a man, as somebody that is trying to evolve and continue to learn, continue to grow. When I think of manhood and how we, articulated it today, it obviously is different perspectives, and there's no wrong one over
There's no wrong
over the other.
And there's no right.
And there's no right. I got the idea, and that's probably why I kind of hit on it so much when I was asking, well, what about this and what about this and how is that? Because in my mind, I don't want to feel like nobody ever wants to be clinically temporarily dead. You know what I'm saying? Nobody ever wants to be in coma.
And thanks for that feedback. I think sometimes you go too far to know what's far enough. And from a receiver's point of view, I think that may have been too insensitive. Because I've been so far from manhood, there's certain things you don't touch on with manhood.
Some things you don't.
And I was insensitive. And thank you for bringing that forward. So clearly, the proper way to say that would be, let's avoid clinical death and go toward wholeness.
I like how you did
As
that. As
opposed to sentencing a man to clinical death because he ain't cried in a week.
I was going to say.
Thank you for that, Mr.
That's what I was feeling.
To get the better outcomes.
Thank you for Mr. Antoine.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Let's get to better outcomes and not sentencing to death.
Yeah.
I like that because that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I couldn't articulate it until now because again, when I talk to men such as yourselves, I value you guys' opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And the reason being is because obviously you guys live longer than me, and you also come from similar backgrounds.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear you guys talk and ask me my perspectives, the last thing I want to do is, and again, I've never been a yes man. Sometimes I go against the grain just because it just makes the most sense sometimes.
Right.
That's individuality.
That's individuality, right? And I want to keep going towards that. And I also want to be able to grow because I want to make sure I don't pass no bad habits down to my offspring. You know what I mean? Because I want them to be healthy individuals. I don't want them to have any of the hang-ups, if you will, that I grew up with.
I agree.
And so when and I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you taking the time to say, let me go ahead and double back and reevaluate how I approach that. Because I don't want it to be a death sentence.
You ain't growing.
There you go.
Period.
There you go.
I'm growing in real time.
There it is.
In real time.
There it is.
We're all human.
So we're all human, and that right there is a beautiful expression of that concept. We are human. You know what I mean?
Sir.
Even with 25 years in the gang, the fact that you were able as a man, I just respect that even more. And so that little example allows me to do the same thing when I catch myself as being wrong.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So that's how I look at manhood.
Wrong. I say one of the things that you should try to do is try to get away from defining right and wrong. Because it's not that you were wrong, it's just you had a different perspective that wasn't
fully
the
developed.
best
Okay.
method to get the outcome you wanted.
Okay. I can see that.
So, because when you do right and wrong, that's like on and off. You know what I'm saying? Either it's here or it's there. But life isn't either here or there. It's a spectrum.
That's fast. And there's gray areas in within that spectrum.
Absolutely.
Okay. And wrong or right can potentially be judging yourself and doing too much, and you're going to miss the whole idea of the growth that's hidden in between the message.
Absolutely. Because if you judge yourself too harshly, if you say I'm wrong, that might make you go too far to the right. And then you go too far to the left. And you're missing everything in the middle. And that's what the beauty is.
That is the beauty.
The beauty in now. Looks like we have taken a journey, a human journey, through manhood, through some hoods, from some hoods.
Facts.
And I think we've all are better because of it.
100%.
And that's the goal of spitting. We want to spit in such a way, such a humble way. Nobody's going to wipe it off. I think we've done that today.
I agree.
I think we've done that today. I think we're all better off. I'd like to conclude in hopes that we continue to increase the Shupidsit as we decrease the Shupidstit.
Stupid shit.
I tell you right now, boy, if you don't think if this transformation is so radical,
Yeah.
just to,
I'm with you.
just to say it
I'm
right,
with you, Earl. I'm with you, Earl.
just to say it
I see
right,
where you was going. I was.
just to say it, because you, what's interesting, there's a thin line between the common and the uncommon, just a thin line.
Like love and hate.
Whoa. There's a thin line. Whoa,
Facts. True story.
and love and hate are essential.
They are essential.
But I don't like. That's a whole other.
That's a
subject
whole
too.
other.
That's too
That's a
many.
whole other conversation.
But let me try this one more again. It is my hopes that we increase the Shupidstit and decrease the stupid shit.
100%.
That's it.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Appreciate y'all, gentlemen. I
Again,
love y'all.
thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to be around men who are focused on assisting other men to grow and develop. Because what you guys already know is what you guys feed me, I feed everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
That looks like me, that runs like me, that's in arm's distance of me. So because of that, that's your consciousness is being spread like a wildfire.
Why you think when I saw you, I was like, I think this man is ready for that next step
Yeah, definitely.
in conversation. And that was the first time me and you ever talked.
First time.
The first time we ever talked.
That's
And
right.
my definition of ready is to open three things. Open your hand. Open your heart. Open your mind. That's you will arrive at full human potential. If you close your hand to solve problems, you lost 1/3 of human potential. Animal potential, but not human potential. We're so much more than a closed fist. If you close your heart, sometimes you close it to protect yourself. You're losing another 1/3 of human potential. And if you close your mind, a closed mind is the most dangerous weapon I ever seen.
Yes.
And harms mostly yourself. Sometimes other, but mostly yourself. On that note, gentlemen,
Until next time.
Sounds good.
to be continued with love.
Hey, I love it.
Love these brothers.
Peace, peace, peace.